ABLE classes for Tri-C's Aspire program.
Hi, my name is Ashley Bennett. I am a certified life coach, a two-time #1 best-selling author on Amazon, and I'm also a motivational speaker, and I'll be talking more about my books.
Ladies, I'd like to thank you guys so much for coming today. Our guests have come in to share with us and experiences that they've had. The conversation today might be a little bit uncomfortable for some, but I feel it's relatable to all, specifically to all of us in the community that are trying to deal with unspoken hurts in our lives. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Ashley right now to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and your books. Okay.
Again, thank you for having me first. It's great to be here. With my books, last year is when I published my first book, Not Easily Broken, Turning Hidden Shame into Distant Memories. I published my book. It is a memoir, and it talks about my journey from age 3 to 23, and it just goes over topics of overcoming sexual abuse, abandonment issues from meeting my father at age 6, and how I coped with everything and how I dealt with everything. And ultimately, it's a triumphant story, and also how I found Christ in the midst of depression. And
beautiful.
Thank you. And my second book is about my waiting journey. It's called 6 Years and Counting, 6 Years and Counting, a Journey of Celibacy While Waiting for Marriage. In December, it will be 7 years.
Did you say celibacy?
Yes.
Please explain to
Yes,
our
so-
audience what celibacy means.
I'm not a virgin. I've had sex before, okay? So I just want to clarify that. I'm not trying to pretend. But it means I had sex and now I'm choosing to wait. So it is possible. And I wanted to write that book. One of my friends actually told me that I should write the book because she said, I will read a book about that because I don't know how you're doing it and you're grown. You know, it's not, even in the Christian community, it's not too many people waiting that's not married.
True.
So, and when I asked Christians for the answers, not all, but some around my age, they were like, I don't know what to tell you because I'm having sex and I'm not going to stop having sex. I'm going to be honest with you. So I wrote a book about my real experience with that and some of the
What
battles.
was the name of the book?
6 Years and Counting, a Journey of Celibacy While Waiting for Marriage.
We're going to frequently plug that book. What
Yes.
do you have to say to her?
Oh, I'm just listening to that celibacy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, but you know, there are so many women who probably are on the same journey as you are.
True.
And they do need that support. You'd be surprised, and it's just not one of those casual conversations that we have.
Right.
You know? Yeah, I myself I'm on the same journey too.
Amen.
Yes, I am. Amen.
Amen.
Yes.
When we looked at your bio, can you just tell me a little bit about your journey so far?
Yes. So about my journey, it really started in 2013, and it went from me putting myself in therapy after the realization, like, I have been victimized. I need help.
Wait a minute, hold up. Black people don't do therapy.
I know.
Is that a myth, doctor?
Yeah. No, I would say it. Yes, it is a myth, but there are some who actually will do therapy, but that's just nothing that's common in our household.
Right.
You know, Black people, we always have that thing where, you know, you don't speak about what goes on in the house.
That's true.
So that probably is why we have that myth that Black people do not go to counseling. But many of them, they actually probably need it. Yeah.
Absolutely, and it's the stigma that you're crazy or you have a strong mental health issue if you're going to therapy. But I mean, I think a lot of people need therapy.
Yes.
It's just talking to someone who
Well,
has
that
an
was a
unbiased
traumatic
opinion.
thing.
Yeah.
The trauma of what you are speaking about, any form of abuse,
Right.
or neglect or abandonment issues, offer a lifetime of injury to some people.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us why or what prompted you to start attending like counseling?
Absolutely. So, what prompted me to start counseling? I did write a paper on the effects sexual abuse has on people who have gone through it and the different coping mechanisms. And I knew once I was able to deal with what happened, I knew if I didn't seek help, I knew self-coping could be the worst coping. So I knew it could spiral into either pushing people away, speaking relationships, pushing people away, or being promiscuous, giving myself away to the wrong people. It could go into other addictions potentially, just to try to numb myself from what happened to me and not try to deal with it, block it out. So I said, if I'm going to choose to live and not always stay in this depressive state, I need someone who's trained in the mental health field to help me through this.
So did you find that you were experiencing some of these symptoms?
Yes, I did find that I was experiencing some of these symptoms. I won't say I was like completely promiscuous. I was, selective, but even with the people I selected, they weren't worthy of myself. I mean, really outside of marriage and in the sight of God, for me, for what I believe as a Christian, your husband is supposed to be the one that's worthy of that, but we don't always fit into that perfect cookie cutter Christian frame of waiting until marriage. So I was devaluing myself. We're jewels, we're roses. Yes. We're created in the image of God, and we're not sent here to just be peddled or treated like trash. And when you don't see your own worth, you'll allow other people to pick your standards for you.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Well, tell us a little bit about your art. I really would like to see where art comes in your therapeutic journey.
Yes. So with my artwork, I'll just hold up a piece. So with my artwork, this is the first piece that I did. This is the first piece that I did called Hidden Shame. This piece I actually did to speak out for other people, because I've always been strong and trying to be an advocate for people, because so many people, before I dealt with what happened to me personally, so many people would come up to me and just openly tell me their story of how they were raped, how they were molested, how they had to give away the kid that was produced out of rape. I mean, so many different people, men and women, told me about their story. And I was like, is this normal for people to come up to me and tell me this kind of stuff? And so I wanted to speak out doing artwork. And so Hidden Shame is just a woman or a person in the basement, a low place and a dirty place, and they're naked, they're exposed. This is their truth. And it just basically says on the wall, help me understand it's not my fault. Nobody hurt me when I cried. Hidden are years of shame. I felt the shame when he touched me, hurt me. So that's what's splattered on the wall. It's in your face. You have to see it. And whether it's that screams out sexual abuse, the viewer, if they've experienced or encountered some kind of abuse, they'll put themselves in this picture and say, that's me. I can relate to this. So,
can you explain how you actually painted this?
Yes. Yes. So the process was, I wasn't trying to be artistically correct. I wasn't thinking about how I was blending or anything. I just wanted it to be gritty. I used like textured paint, like a cement for the floor. I started doing this, but in the midst of me painting this is when my memory was triggered from when I was a child. And as I was talking to one of my friends, which I mentioned in my first book, Not Easily Broken, I was talking to one of my friends. She was going over her encounter of what happened with her stepfather, and who was put in jail for what he did to her and her sibling. And I realized through my conversation with her, she was like, you didn't realize you were molested? And I was like, what? After telling her my story. And that's when I had to deal with, by definition, I was molested and I had never actually dealt with it, but it dealt with me. And I made bad decisions because I was exposed to intimacy in a perverted way, and at a very young age, which was starting at 4.
So you're saying that if a person is young, a young child suffered some type of violation, whether it's being slapped, whether it's being abandoned, where it's going to come back on them somewhere in life.
Oh, absolutely. Like, even at a young age of 4, even if like my memory is good, even though I had the ability to suppress mentally what happened to me, there's some people, their memory could barely go back to 12, but it's still, if they were molested at a young age, it still dealt with them. You could tell by their actions something happened to them. They wouldn't just act out.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be any type of sexual abuse. It could just be any violent act, or like fire, any traumatic act, like a gunshot, somebody. Yes. So those are the things that you might, okay, would you speak on that, Doc?
I'm sorry, yeah. Well, I was just saying, those would be the things that you would actually block out, memories like that, traumatic memories. So it just doesn't have to be sexual.
Right.
So how is art actually bringing forth healing is my question.
Yes. So in the process, this wasn't the only piece I painted. We can go in depth with the other ones, but just to briefly show you some other pieces that I did.
They spoke for you.
Yes, they basically spoke for me. I had this piece that basically spoke about the coping mechanisms being birthed or developed in being silent. And often we're silent, but our silence is really killing us internally and mentally. It's not helping us. It's not causing the person who did the wrong thing to stop what they're doing. Not to victim shame, but the more we speak out, the more we could potentially stop this from happening, and more people would be helped, or it could be prevented from it happening to them. So this is giving a visual. You can birth coping mechanisms if you're in your silence. And then the last one is freedom is mine, and just breaking the chains of bondage that could have you bound.
It says I want to be free.
Yes, I want to be free. And at the bottom, it says some of the things I personally wanted to be free from, and some people who have been victimized that they deal with, such as having a low self-worth, possibly wanting to die, cutting, just so many things, feeling tormented, feeling depressed, feeling a sense of shame in the dark. So I want to be free, saying it is possible for freedom, but where do I start? And hopefully one day I want to be here. So to answer your question, art, it was a visual diary for me. Before I had the boldness to be vocal, it spoke for me, and so many people gravitated to it. And art shows that it gave me courage to speak about what happened to me.
Well, where has your artwork taken you from the therapy office to where?
Yes, I actually in Phoenix, Arizona was my first art show. Well, not my art show. It was
first show.
Yes, art organization invited me after they saw my pieces. Someone asked me after they saw my pieces, they wanted me to email an art director. I emailed the art director. She invited me, and it was about 600 people there. They asked me to speak on stage about my artwork, and I just got a round of applause. And it was so many people coming up to me after telling me what happened to them.
Wow.
And what step do they take next.
Wow.
And that's when I said, this is why I couldn't die.
Yes.
This is what I was meant for. And then I went from feeling victimized to empowered. And I said, I can't stop. No
That's
matter
beautiful, yes.
how uncomfortable this art makes people feel, no matter how uncomfortable me speaking out makes people feel. And this is before the Me Too movement. I mean, I thank God for the Me Too movement and people starting to speak out. But it was even before that, I was like, I need this courage because somebody needs to hear this testimony.
And they do need to hear it. They do need to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. What year did this start?
2013.
2013.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So that's where the first book stops at. But it goes from age 3 and then it goes to age 23. And I cut off there because that's when my artwork started. That was the year I started therapy. And it just gives this triumphant new start.
It's basically when you broke the chain.
Yes. It's when the chain started breaking for me.
Does it open up a conversation to people your age and younger?
Yes. Really, it has opened up a conversation from people to, I mean, I've spoken in front of people who are very young, like elementary school age, all the way till in their late 70s, 80s even.
Wow.
Nice.
I've spoken to people where they never dealt with, they're telling me stuff that happened in their family they never talked about. You just couldn't talk about. And they were like, thank you for, so although I reach millennials and like the younger generation too, I have been able to reach all generations, baby boomers, all generations really, people inside and outside of church.
How do you think the church fits into your journey?
The church definitely fits into my journey. I definitely feel this is a ministry without walls because I could be in a venue.
I like that thought.
Yeah, I could be in a venue where there's a bar, but I'm still able to speak Jesus without necessarily saying Jesus, but I can say Jesus. I don't have no fear.
I'm living Jesus.
Yeah, I'm living Jesus. And even people with lifestyles that's not acceptable under, a religious kind of umbrella or within Christianity, how some people feel about certain people with alternative lifestyles. Even people who have the quote unquote alternative lifestyles, they gravitate toward me. They'll open up to me.
That's because hurting people hurt people.
Yeah.
They can relate to that.
Yeah. So I feel like this is ministry, and I thank God for every church door and pulpit that has allowed me to openly talk and share my story, and every organization outside of churches that's allowed me to do the same.
What do you think?
Yeah, well, I wanted to kind of touch on the fact that because she didn't mention that she has some artwork that's actually become a part of Dr. Maya Angelou's art collection.
Yes.
I was just wondering about that because you didn't touch on that at all.
Yes. So right after I did that show in Phoenix, and I've done shows all over. I've done multiple shows in Phoenix. I've done shows in downtown LA, in Orange County, California. I had a solo art exhibit in Orange County. I had a month-long solo exhibit at Kent State University, my alma mater, and I did not get a degree in art. So that was an honor to me that they would allow me to do that. So I've done stuff all over the place, thank God. But how I got the piece to Dr. Maya Angelou before she died or passed away, a friend I was working with at the time, I told her I wanted to do these series called Our Stories. And someone I looked up to was her, because I love poetry. I love how she spoke out. And I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings in her book, her memoir. And I was like, I need to do a piece dedicating to her. Not necessarily trying to give it to her, because I was like, what's the odds of that? And I was going to do a piece with us as kids laughing at each other. Like, we overcame what, triumphant. And then I was like, I'll just do a piece with her by herself in deep thought. And I'll do a piece separate for me and a couple other people with their permission. As I was doing this piece, I told one of my friends who came to support me in my art show, like, I'm doing this piece of Dr. Maya Angelou to be put in my next art show. She was like, oh, we have to get it to her. And I was like, girl, what are you talking about? And she was like, oh, my stepmom is her assistant. And I was like, what? What are the odds of that? I mean, when you give your life to God, he just opens doors that no man can shut.
Yes.
And he closes doors like depression and fear and your past that no man can open. And she held her word, and she texted her stepmom. She said, I have a friend doing this piece. Can you get it to her? She said, send it to me when she's done. Take a picture, and I'll look at it and let you know if she should send it. So I spent 3 weeks on this piece, and I finished drawing it. It was a black and white charcoal portrait of her, and it was like 18 by 24. So it's a decent, bigger than this, decent sized piece. I framed it and everything. She gave me her address, and I shipped it to her house, and she hung it it was under her tree, and then she hung it in her bedroom before she passed away. And she read my letter, and I detailed my testimony in the letter, and I said, thank you for speaking out, because you've given me the courage to speak out too. And she was so moved by it, and she wanted to send me back a letter and write me send a book to me, to a signed book, and she got sick and she passed away right after. So I was just like, what an honor.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's one of those God things, because I was like, I don't take any credit for that.
Yes. I'm
going to tell you the most beautiful thing of you coming on today is that we can learn so much about that there are ways of coping, and that therapy is a beautiful option, and possibly a way of breaking the chains.
Yeah.
I'm just really thankful and appreciative that you came and shared your gift with us. I appreciate you too. I hope to see more of both of you ladies.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, this is just so beautiful. I would just like to thank the audience too for sharing with us tonight. I want to tell you, I hope to see you again next week, and I hope you all have a blessed weekend. Take care. God bless.